When I met Phil, he was with Turner Broadcasting, and he is now at the Weather Channel. He's kind of a tech guru. He has a lot of information on that. Last year, everybody was talking to him about websites and creating websites and how to make money through websites, and we even got into a conversation about credit card debt. Don't ask me how, but we can talk about anything in here. So he's also a personal friend who's got a lot of great ideas. He's an entrepreneur. He's got some business ventures that he may or may not talk about today. And I'll let Phil tell you everything about him, so please join me in welcoming Phil Newman. Thank you.
Thanks, Liz.
Sure. I'm just going to go on the other side of you.
Go ahead. Thanks. Yes, exactly. So thanks, guys, and thank you, Liz. I'm really thrilled to be back. I had a great time last year and look forward to this. So let me just tell you a little bit about myself. I'm currently my title is Manager of Distributed Products at the Weather Channel. We'll get into that in a little bit more, but what it really means in a nutshell is this is weather.com's website. All this data and all this information that's presented here, I try to take it and put it somewhere else, on your own blog site, on Starbucks website, on, let's say, the newspaper, whatever, Facebook, it doesn't matter. I try to take that and put it somewhere else to try to help Weather Channel make money. That's what it boils down to. I've been with Weather Channel now, I don't know, about 6, 8, 9 months, somewhere in that range. Before that, I spent a good deal of time with Turner Broadcasting. Turner Broadcasting is the parent company of CNN, Cartoon Network, Adult Swim, I'm sorry? TBS, right. NBA.com is a property of Turner Broadcasting now. NASCAR.com, PGA, lots and lots of different names that you probably know are all run just down the street here from Turner Broadcasting. And what I did there was I managed what they call content management systems, which is how does someone who writes a story, takes a picture, gets information, draws the cartoon, get that to a website. Tied into that, and part of what's got me to where I am right now is before I ever got to Turner, I spent 4.5 years with Earthlink. If you guys know Earthlink, who, Atlanta-based internet service provider right over here at 17th Street. Greatest 4 years of my career, I think. I had a blast, a lot of fun, a lot of creative people. I probably wrote, when I was in the office there, probably used crayons as much as I used pens and pencils. A lot of fun, a lot of creativity, a lot of just how do we get this done? How do we figure this out? Kind of thinking all the time, a lot of energy. And so, I had a couple other stops before that we can talk about later if we get into it, but it's pretty much where my career is kind of settled right now, is in this internet space, and how do we share data, how do we start trying to monetize content is what I'm all about. And by monetize content is like, you write an article, you take a picture, you do something, how do I make money off of it, right? Why do I do this? Why do I put it on the internet? Why do I pay for these computers? I guess a good place to start is I'll show you guys a couple things here real quick, and sorry for standing your way. So this is weather.com. You guys all frequent weather.com, I'm sure. Or every morning. Thank you. So you have the app on your phone. Excellent. That's in my portfolio. What is that? The iPhone? 4G. Excellent. Yes. Thank you. No problem. Thank you. So the way Weather Channel makes money from this is we present ads. Like you see the Delta ad right there. Yeah. Every time somebody sees that ad, we get a fraction of a penny. Oh. A fraction, right? So we show that ad. Yeah, but we show that ad 1 billion times a year. Oh. Okay? At Delta Delta pays us to put that on our site. 1 billion right? Times a fraction of a penny. Sure. There we go. But I have ads here. Oh, and look here. This isn't really an ad, but Fall Fury. This says, go to Weather Channel on TV and watch a TV show. Well, guess what's going to happen while you're watching the TV show? You're going to see commercials. Yeah, right here. Can I hold this up? So right here, you can see this is our iPhone app. And right across the top is a Bank of America ad. Bank of America gives us a nice check, and we put that there. But what we do is it's kind of a draw. It's like we say, why do people want to come to the Weather Channel? Well, you want to see that it's partly cloudy and 70 degrees outside, right? Bank of America says, well, as long as they're there, thank you. And we also get a little bit more kickback, and this is pretty much consistent with any website you'll find. Get a little bit more if you click the ad and actually follow through. So, here we go. Well, you'd be surprised. A lot of people follow through on these ads. A lot of people click through. A lot of people, what's working now in the space is we work through a whole lot of how do I make this ad, what they call it contextual. Interesting. You came here looking for this information. I want this ad to be related to this information.
You might be looking at the weather to where you're flying, and if you see $44,
bingo.
One-way fare, then you're like, what?
Bingo.
Awesome.
So as you dive through, and I don't want to surf through the whole website, but in the website itself, we have sections about gardening. We have sections about playing golf and going hiking for the weekend, riding horses. Doesn't matter. It's all there. There's something there that we're talking about. How does the weather impact this? And we've got an adjoining ad with it that we hope you'll take a look at or click on, or at least we'll present. Most websites will do something called cookieing, where they drop a small, you know this stuff. All right, so you get up. No. So what they'll do is they'll drop a little piece of information on your computer so that the next time you come back, they go, oh, I remember you. Last time you were here, you were looking at horseback riding. So I'm going to start thinking of you as a horseback rider, and I'm going to start presenting horseback riding information.
Is that why you're supposed to erase your cookies?
Exactly. That's a good privacy setting, is to erase your cookies, to clear your cache, that kind of thing. Depending. I mean, there are times when that's advantageous and worthwhile, that it's good, in a case of email, for instance. I want my email settings preserved, or that's an example. Probably not the best. Anyway, this is our website. So I start with places, for instance, this is the Google Chrome browser, and this button right here takes me to my Chrome extension. That's what it's called, and it may take a second to open up. That's what you would see. Obviously, I'd probably never open that if I were on the weather.com website. But if I'm doing something else, I'm checking my email, or I'm on Facebook, or I'm somewhere else, I click that and I see all that information. I see the map. How do you do that?
How do I get it on my Google Chrome website?
Chrome has an extension store. It has a browser store. You'd have to go to, click the wrench, and it'll take you to the store, and then you just search for Weather Channel, and there'll be a big button that says install. Boom, you're good. It'll ask you one question, and that's where you live, your zip code, your location to tell you your weather. Anyway, so we'll give you all this information right here. This is all the freebie stuff. But I want more information. I need to know, okay, it's 70 now, but I'm more interested in the hour by hour, because I need to know what it's going to be like when I get home tonight, because I want to know if I can go walk the dog or play with the kids outside and all that kind of stuff. That's where I begin to start making the money, and that's my area is all about teaser content, is what they call it. This is a little teaser. Here's the weather. You want to know more? Come to my website. Come learn more. This is one example. Right now, there's a lot of places where this stuff is happening, and it changes daily. Let me close that real quick. iPhones, great example. Android phones, Blackberries, iPads, happening everywhere where we're finding new places to present this kind of information. At the same time, it's changing where people are less likely to come and say, I want to come to your website. Give me more content on my iPhone so I don't have to go to your website, which is why you start seeing ads on your iPhone and on your iPad and on your Android phone and anywhere else. So we're beginning to take the content and distribute it all over the place, which is a whole nother challenge of how do I make sure where the content goes, how much do I give, make sure the content you see is the same as you see, because I can't control it all anymore. It's all over the place. Thought I'd show you a couple of other places where stuff that I work on is being used. Let's see.
So you're the reason my iPhone is slow.
Sure. Nah. sjobs@apple.com.
Right, yeah.
Email him right away. This entire page... This entire page right here is on the weather.com website, but you see it's weather gadgets from the Weather Channel. You see widgets, you see iGoogle stuff, you see stuff for Vista, Apple dashboard widget. Everything here is something that I'm working on in some capacity. There's probably 2 other pages of this information. And actually, one thing I'm trying to do is simplify this. This is too much. I want to make it very simple for you to find the extension or the piece of weather.com you're looking for. There's all these pieces and components here. This is a deal that we just launched September 1, so this is brand new, from Starbucks. It's very hard to see here with this projector and the light, but if you look right here, this icon, and where it says 70 degrees right here, that's Weather Channel data. if I can navigate through all that, you've seen something similar. That's very similar to that Chrome extension. But this is a deal between two businesses that I've been working on. So this is between Weather Channel and Starbucks, who says, we want your content, we want your data. Very similarly, I display the information. You want more? Here you go. I keep this page as like a demo page. These are all the widgets and things or some of the widgets and things. Here's Apple Safari for you guys who might see that. This should have an icon here. We're having a few technical issues at the moment, but it does the same thing. You click on it, takes you to weather.com. These right here, the two latest things I've launched in the portfolio, these are meant to go to your blog, your Facebook page, that kind of thing, where you click a share button. This is called viral sharing, because you promote my product for me by taking my content and sharing it with someone else. In this case, that box opens up and it says, do you want to post this to Twitter? Do you want to post it to Facebook? Do you want to put it on your blog site and all that? And just one other spot is here. Here's a toolbar in Firefox. I have one for IE as well for PCs. This works in both. Again, teaser information, drive you back to the website. Do I work with the broadcast? I'm working closely now with our own broadcast channel to try to drive you back to watch television. An ad on television to me is worth a lot more money than an ad on this website. So what I want to do is start taking that information. I want to tell you the weather, but I also want to remind you that there's a really cool show coming on, Fall Fury or Storm Chasers or Cantori Stories, something coming on. So in that regard, beginning to mix that content of getting you to go back to our station and watch. The next step we'll begin to see is I'll start taking those full-length episode stories and those full-length episode broadcast things that you could normally only see on your TV channel and put them here on the website. Of course, I'm going to wrap them in ads and I'm going to wrap them in other information to try to get you to do more and just try to keep you engaged. Do we have to stay loyal? No. What we do is we sell placements for a period of time. And it's not even consistent. If I go back to weather.com right now, the Delta ad may not be there. It'll rotate out. There's a whole series of rules that get defined in these ad contracts about this ad will be placed times a day to this kind of user, a horseback riding user versus a traveler versus a golfer. One thing that often comes up is competitive ad information. There'll be a block list. If I'm displaying a Delta ad, I will not be displaying a Southwest or an AirTran ad or a United ad. Not going to happen. Chevy's doing something, you will not see a Ford ad anywhere. Those kinds of rules are all in these back-end computer systems behind the whole thing that make it all happen. And we track, and every one of these ads, there's a metric system behind it that I could tell you very specifically. How many times did we show it? How many times did somebody click on it? How many times did you drag your mouse over it? How long did it appear on your screen before you moved on to a new page? All that data is there. And this is my example. This is where I play. Every website's got that. That's how Facebook's making money. They put those ads up there. How long do they get displayed? How many times did you click on it? All those kinds of things.
It's kind of scary.
But it's important to know what you're doing when you're on the internet and what you're doing on your phone. Your phone. I hear you. That makes me think we've just bridged a gap. We're moving to a new web technology that brings us more in line with with your cell phone. Your cell phone knows where you are. It's got this feature called geolocation, right? You ever just flip open the map app and here it is? All web browsers now do that. It can tell you where you are. So now I've got a whole lot going on.
It's weird. Like on Facebook, if you take a picture, it can tell you the exact longitude and latitude
Yes.
that you are in that picture.
I don't like that.
You got to be careful. So there's times I want people to know that. There's times I don't want people to know that. I mean, I'll tell you, part of what I do and part of my job and part of all of this information that I try to figure out on these websites, I do a lot of competitive analysis. What are other weather providers doing as far as their applications, their iPhone apps, their websites, their widgets, gadgets, toolbars? But I also do a lot of industry analysis. What's hip and cool? What's the latest iPhone app that's really cool that may or may not have anything to do with weather? I just actually, this is very, I guess, right on topic, is last week I prototyped, and I'm showing it off with my engineering team right now back at Weather, all it is you've seen the Facebook and Twitter buttons. All it is that same concept. We'll just intersperse throughout weather.com. So anywhere you see the weather, you can post on your Facebook page and go, oh, it's raining here. This is, I hate this. Boom, Facebook. Boom, tweet. Done. But what that does is that gets brand awareness, that drives you back to our site. It gets people thinking about it, talking about it, getting these discussions going, and taking the weather content away from weather.com and putting it other places and spreading it. And you become part of the branding effort, or whoever's using it, and the selling effort, in a way.
So I'm a statistic.
In many ways, yes. But I tell you, my role, and I feel this very strongly, is about the consumer experience. If I'm not giving you something of value, I don't want you as a statistic. I want to make it a fair trade, right? I'll give you a freebie, you give me something in return, and we got a deal. If we're not doing that, something's not working right. And that's a very different kind of way of thinking about things, but that's where the internet's moving, that's where a lot of the iPhone apps are moving. I mean, you'll see. So it's a trade, but you get, at all levels of this, you get your own choice. There's privacy settings and all these things you can go through to determine what gets published where, what information you allow. I mean, Facebook, I think, is probably the most familiar. So that's, like I say, the other part of it is I get calls every day from either a new company, a new business, an entrepreneur who's sitting at home and said, hey, I have this idea. How can we make this work? I was doing a competitive analysis, stumbled across this company, said, hey, look at this. And I saw them because they had somewhere in the neighborhood, they were doing something like 4,000 downloads of this a week. And so I reached out to them and I said, hey, you guys have a pretty interesting thing going on. And they came back to me and said, oh, we're using your data. I said, I had no idea. So this was months ago. We started the conversation of, okay, you're using my data. Please put my logo there. Please use my marketing. And so we have an official deal in place, a contract signed by our legal department, their legal department. They're two guys, right? They signed it. And it's a very friendly deal. These are two companies. They're not trying to get each other. I'm sorry?
They pay you guys?
I was trying to remember. This is, we have what's called a rev share deal, a revenue sharing deal. So that means that if you click anywhere in their app and come to my website, for every ad I display while you're there that I'm making a few cents on, they get a portion of those cents. It adds up over time. I mean, you're talking on the web, millions and millions and billions of people looking at this stuff. From my portfolio alone and all the products I manage, none of which live on weather.com, I will drive somewhere in the neighborhood of 1 billion people to weather.com this year. It means 1 billion times people will click their mouse and go to weather.com because of the toolbar, because of these widgets, because of all this stuff. And you can go through, there's additional calculations you can go through to see what that means to weather.com. It's about 10% of our website business right there. I'm sorry? The other 90? The other 90 comes from either other websites linking to us or people going straight to the website, people doing Google searches, direct stuff. We have what's happening with websites like Weather is we're trying to build these community things. We want you to feel part of what's going on. Come to weather.com, read what's going on, participate in the blogs, discuss, make it part of your life, right? Just like you'd get up in the morning and you might read the newspaper in the morning before you go to work or before you go to school, or that's what I used to see my parents do that every morning. They'd read the newspaper before they went to work. So, same kind of idea. We want to be in that place. It's tough though, because everybody's doing that. Every website's doing that. The newspaper sites are doing that. So it's a balance. All right, how else can I tell you more about this, or me, or share more information, or?
So this part of it, what I'm going to do is ask Phil some questions, and they really relate to his career, how he got in his career, and things that will help give you different lessons that you'll hopefully find useful as you decide what you want to do, what's your passion, where you want to go in 5 years, in 10 years, in 30 years. So 30, can you believe it? 30 years. 30 years, you'll be younger than I am now.
Yeah? No.
Yes.
30 years?
You'll be younger than I am, so
I don't believe
it's a lot. Well,
That is hard to believe.
Exactly. Okay. Yes?
No, go ahead. I'm ready. I'm ready.
Okay, so my first question. Who did you want to be when you were in 9th grade?
Who did I want to be when I was in 9th grade?
When did you want to, did you have, are you now where you thought you were going to be when
Oh,
you
absolutely
were in 9th
not.
grade?
No.
In
No.
fact, when you were in 9th grade, was any of this stuff even around to know that you wanted to do it?
In 9th grade, there was a little bit of computer stuff, but I had no idea I wanted to do it. I had no idea I'd ever get into this field. Honestly, in 9th grade, I wanted to go out with my girlfriend and not think about anything else, quite honestly.
Okay.
But what did I want to do? I wanted to play baseball. Let's be fair. This kind of is something that evolved over time. I explored and learned more, and you know, at some point, I couldn't live at home, and I had to support myself.
So your passion was baseball.
Sure.
What did you do? Let's go that route. What did you do to pursue baseball as a dream?
Oh, not a lot. No, I played a lot. I practiced a lot. I just.
And then, so what happened? At what point did you? And I understand you had to support yourself. I also was that way, and my thought was, if I'm going to support myself, I'm going to do it in style.
Sure.
So you kind of follow a path that will help you do that. What was it that helped you move forward? What was either the passion that you followed or the activity that you enjoyed? How did you get into this field?
Okay, really, how did I get into this field? For me, I like to understand why things work. I'm big, as a kid, I used to take things apart, put them back together.
You just need to know what are the things that you could do that will help you be successful, whatever it is you decide to do when you decide that. Because Phil is successful at what he does, and you yourself heard this wasn't his dream when he was in 9th grade. He had a different dream. I'm just trying to help everyone understand what are the steps you took so that you could be successful in the direction you went.
Okay, so I mean, really, I studied I guess I went through high school, 9th grade. I took a lot of math courses. For whatever reason, I enjoyed math. And
do you use math now?
Somewhat. Not the same kind of math I took. I took some algebra and some trig and some calc and those kinds of things. But forget it, I can't do it. But what I do use is some simple things, a lot of addition, division, all that kind of stuff, but on huge sets of numbers. If you think about the sites, and we were talking about the ads and the different things going on, I get to summarize all that information and boil it down to what does that mean, you know, for you. What does that mean for every time you come to my site? How many tenths of a cent are you worth to me? And that kind of thing. And so now I begin to do the balance of, all right, if I spend $50,000, for instance, on software and building out a new product, how many people do I think will use it? When they do use it, how many people will click on something? So what does that translate to in dollars? Does it pay for itself? Will I make my $50,000 back and then some? So that's a little bit of math.
And you don't always know when you're learning it, what am I going to use and apply and what won't I?
Never. So.
Was there a moment that you had an epiphany or something someone said or something someone did that made you move forward in another direction?
Yes, absolutely. This was back, I guess I had started working at Earthlink, and I had a phenomenal manager there, and she said to me, you're creative. I see you doodling and drawing and whatnot. You should take that creativity and put it into our products. Don't just be here and have people ask you to do something and do it. Go figure things out and push them. Come up with your own ideas and promote them. Try to sell them and run them up. In these corporations and these big companies, you have to go and justify and sell and follow these processes. Go do that. And if it succeeds, great. And if it doesn't, try the next one. And just keep doing that. But she kept pushing me real hard to do that again and again and again. And at the time, I didn't recognize it. However many years later, it was a huge motivator.
Okay, when you didn't recognize it, what did it feel like to you? What did you think of her at the time?
I kind of felt, in some ways like she was a teacher or a mother type figure, pushing me to do something I was a little uncomfortable with. And it was awkward feeling, quite honestly. It just was not something go sell my idea, go kind of push this and promote this. But after, again, looking back now, I recognized she saw something, and she saw that these were ideas that needed to be discussed, and whether I had them or someone else had them, you've got to promote ideas, and you've got to be creative, and you've got to come up with new stuff. And so now it feels great.
It sounds like she was trying to get you to be a leader and be proactive.
Sure.
And these are things that we're not always told in junior high and high school, and I think that there might be more of that now. You're in peer leadership. This is the genetics class, but I know there is peer leadership, and there is some of that going on. But it's not the message that you're given as you're growing up. And so when you got the message, it felt a little uncomfortable.
It was definitely, because I feel like so much of what I either learned in high school or college or grad school or any of that stuff was, this is the system. Fit in the system and do these things. I guess I went to school at University of Georgia, and they're teaching me accounting, and this is the accounting system, and put all these things together, and you have to make sure this falls in this bucket. But she was beginning to teach me, okay, great, it's nice to know the system, but figure out do stuff, and then figure out how it fits in the system later. That's kind of the background noise.
What are you guys hearing? Are you told to fit in the system? No. What kind of message are you getting?
Outside the system, do what you want to do, and don't be afraid to do it.
And you're getting that here at Grady. That's
cool.
Great. We didn't get that
when
we were in high school.
I wish I had that in high school. It would have saved me a lot of bumps and bruises along the way.
So what would be some advice? What would you recommend for everyone in here to help them, I want to say, be as happy in their life as you are when they're older? I'm not saying successful financially, but just in general, I feel like, from what I know, you have a well-rounded life.
Thanks.
I may be wrong.
Well, no, put your priorities in order. What's important to you, and follow that through no matter what. You know me very well. Like, my number one priority, or my priority, is my family, my wife, and my kids. I have dinner with my family at our dinner table every single night. People I work with professionally know that if the work needs to get done late, it'll get done late. But I'm going home and having dinner with my family. It's important for me to be there. It's important for me to make sure I tuck my kids in bed. Priority number one, above and beyond, and so that, to me, is part of my happiness and part of my fulfillment, is taking care of that. Everything else is a support structure around that. My job at Weather Channel is a means to an end in that regard. It helps me get the food on the table, the furniture, the beds, and whatever, the lights, and all that stuff. But the important thing is the family, and find your thing and just stay with it, whatever it is.
Would you say that that's a motivator to you to do better work? Like, how would you
Absolutely.
how would you describe probably the quality of your work based on your family being your priority?
Oh, I work, I think, more efficiently and more effectively. I do much better work, much faster, because I recognize that every minute of every day that I'm in the office working is a minute I'm not with my kids or I'm not with my wife, and that I could be. And so I begin to really think about, I think about my time, and I just try to optimize it. What can I do? So how do I do things, I don't want to say rushed or fast, but how do I do them right? How do I do them right once? And how do I get a system in place where I get it done? And I also try to make sure that when I'm spending my time on something, it's appropriate. I don't want to go to a meeting if it's going to waste my time and people are sitting around just chatting. If it's work that I can push off and do on my schedule outside the office, you know me. I'm all about, I work nights and weekends, and I work from the coffee shop, and I do whatever, because a lot of things I do, we talked about the numbers. I can do those from anywhere. I don't have to be in the office to do that. I talk to these guys at the ANI Weather. It's a telephone call. I can do that from anywhere. I don't have to be in the office. So I try to optimize. When I'm in the office for a reason. And anywhere I am, I'm trying to be there for a particular reason.
So having an outside priority doesn't mean it's a takeaway from the quality of your work. Sometimes it might help your work be better. And did anyone in here see the movie Pursuit of Happiness?
Oh, yeah.
So it was tough, right? I did too.
Hey, man. I'm strong, man. I cried.
A lot of people cried. So, but think about that movie. He had less time than anybody, and he was by far and away the best one because he had a priority, he was focused, and he knew how to not shortcut things in a negative, but he knew how to do things effectively. Sometimes the word efficient means you're racing through, and you said you don't race through, but effective means you're doing it at the right speed, the right way. And did everybody see how sometimes he was able to not shortcut things, but for lack of a better word, not call 20 people on the list, just went to the top of the list and made a phone call and yielded a lot more positive result than if he had just gone through the list.
I had a professor in college. You're talking about the efficiency, effectiveness. He used to joke all the time. He'd say, "Tell me to go fast." He'd talk about getting work done, and so that was his big joke. Like, "Tell me to go fast." He'd say, "Dr. Schock, go fast." He'd go, like, "Big deal. I'm going fast, but I'm not accomplishing anything." And so that's the big difference right there. It's like I can do a lot that does nothing, or I can do a very little that accomplishes a lot.
Right.
So you got to figure that out for your particular area.
How did you learn to do that? What would you say would be a good way to practice doing what's important and not doing all the other noise?
One of the very first things to me is I try to take time. The very first thing I try to do is part of my morning routine. And for me, I get up, I have breakfast, I get my kids to school, I take them both to school every morning, then I go to work. When I get to the office, before I do anything else, I sit down and I structure my day. What is it that I have to do today? What are my next things I'm doing? What's outstanding? And I organize what's important. I keep, a lot of people keep a to-do list. I keep what I call a next actions list. I'm a believer in the David Allen stuff, if you're familiar. Anyway, yep. There's a book I like a lot called Getting Things Done by an author named David Allen. I think that's an excellent resource for that kind of thing. But I keep a list of next actions. So I have projects, all kinds of projects. I have them at work. I showed you some of them. I have all kinds of little business and entrepreneurial things I do at nights and weekends and at home in my free time, which I don't have a lot of. But what I do is, rather than keep the to-do list, I keep a next actions list, which says, for this project, what is the next thing that needs to happen? That's on the list. That's it. And beyond that, once that's accomplished, what's the next thing after that? And so I begin to look at those across all the projects and go, oh, this next action has to be accomplished today for whatever reason.
And think about what Phil said. He said he does what's important. He never said the word urgent. Have you ever seen people race around? They always have an emergency. They're always trying to do something because they let things become urgent. And I'm hearing that you address things when they're important.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing, this is a thing, I'll tell you, this is one of my challenges in the workplace and in the corporate world that a lot of people I work with have challenges working with me and other people who've tried this technique. A lot of people live by email right now. And you get an email, they expect a reply immediately, right? Get that email, hit reply. I check my email at work.
Not this class. They don't agree with that.
Well, I was going to say, when I'm in the office or when I'm working, I check my email 3 times a day. I check it when I get in the morning, I check it at lunchtime, and I check it right before I leave for the end of the day. And whatever's in that email, I do something with it right away. Usually I just put it on my next actions list, or I put it into, I delete 90% of it, because a lot of it's noise. But I go through it right away, those 3 times a day, and that's it. Those are the only times you're going to hear from me, or the only times I'm going to hit reply and write you back. Because I have other things that are important. Email is not important. Email is not urgent. It's not critical stuff. If it's something critical, that's I've got a big problem at work or something like that, I believe you should pick up the phone and call me. My phone's going to make noise on my desk. My cell phone's going to ring in my pocket. That's going to get my attention right there. Email I push off, and that's one of the ways I deal with that. That you manage time. And there's a way to keep things from becoming urgent. Think about how many people in here have a driver's license. And okay, so cars have brakes. And if you take your car to the mechanic and the mechanic says you're going to have the brakes fixed in the next few months, they're starting to wear out, you're going to want to take care of them in the next few months.
That's not urgent. It's important. That means sometime in the next 3 months you want to have the brakes fixed. If you don't do anything for 3 months and then one day you're driving and suddenly you have a problem, then it's urgent because you've waited. And what you're trying to do is avoid things being urgent by addressing them when they're important, but you don't have to do it right away when it's important. You can put it in the calendar. So I have one final question before. Oh,
no, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, tell me.
No, I was just thinking, I always put it into perspective of, especially people get caught up in the business and making the money at the business and revenue and that kind of thing. But at the end of the day, I always try to remember, I'm not running a hospital. People don't die if something doesn't get done. So that puts it into perspective. And years ago, I used to work at Home Depot, writing software for Home Depot. And I worked with a guy who used to tell me all the time, this isn't NASA and this isn't the hospital. So, whatever else it is, let me know, we'll just get it.
It sounds like you've had a lot of good peers that you've worked with, people that have been kind of like a mentor.
A very close friend of mine now is, he's vice president of marketing for a company called Better World Books. Mm-hmm. He helped found this company. I worked with him at Earthlink, and he was just a phenomenal guy about thinking creatively and pushing you to make sure your presentations and that you carried yourself. Like, here's your confidence, go do it, I believe in you. He's an awesome guy. But he's vice president now at Better World Books, and I'm impressed with him, quite honestly. And we still chat, and I'd say he mentors me still just in the way he runs his life and the way we talk, because Better World Books, to me, is everything that he believes in his life. For those of you who don't know, Better World Books does, they take book donations and they turn around and resell the books, used books, a lot of campus, college textbooks and things, but then they take whatever money they make from that, they take a portion of it goes to community service projects for teaching literacy, a portion of it goes to just general charities and literacy throughout the world, and then they keep a portion of it for their own profits, for running the business, keeping the lights on, paying the salaries of the people who work there, that kind of thing. So it's got a lot of good stuff happening, and he loves it, and that fits all of his beliefs and his criteria and his everything.
What you just talked about is there's a trend right now that you can follow your passion, and your passion could be something about making the world a better place, and you still can make money. A lot of people used to think that making money and doing good for the world were mutually exclusive, and they're not. And you're seeing with a business like that, you can have a for-profit company that does a lot of good. A lot of companies are now starting to donate money.
Tom's Shoes has been a big one.
Yep.
Tom's Shoes, every time you buy a pair of shoes from them, they donate a pair of shoes to somebody. I forget where they're targeting now. Maybe, I think so. They're all over. They go all over the world. But they give a pair of shoes away to somebody who can't afford them, who has no shoes. But they've built that into their business model and how they do their business.
And I have one final question for you.
Now we finally get to the final question. Excellent.
Final question. What's your final answer? How do you stay updated? How do you keep present or updated in your work so that you can continue to do it and not let all these folks coming out of high school and college who are learning a lot more than we did kind of surpass you?
That's probably the biggest challenge I have, is keeping up, because things change quickly. I do a lot of I surf all over the internet. I get what's called RSS feeds, which are just headline information. I skim them. And if it's something interesting or curious, I'll go follow and read more information. I'm also involved in a number of professional societies and groups that share information. So if something interesting comes along that way, I keep up with it. I try to read for my particular business, I try to read technology magazines, technology writers. David Pogue, New York Times is one that was particularly interesting, as well as there's people I work with at Weather Channel. We just have a group. If one of us sees something interesting, we blast out an email or something to the others. Say, hey, this is kind of curious. Take a look. Most of it I might delete, but a lot of it I follow or understand. Perhaps the most important part of it is I get a good understanding of what I don't know, and I rely on experts. I'm not a software developer, but I have software developers who work for me. I expect them to know what's going on there so that they can keep me up to date with the trends and I can keep them up to date with the trends. So I present a concept to them and they say, oh, this is how we can make it work. Same thing with what they call UI or user interface, which is really the colors and the graphics and the whole screen and the presentation. There's people who are experts in that and why you might click this button instead of this button. I'm not that expert, but I rely on an expert to tell me that. And keeping those people close and giving them opportunities to keep their knowledge up is really
So
a
your
lot.
team is good. You rely on your team.
I rely on my team. That's probably more than anything else.
Wow. Well, great. Well,
Sure.
thank you so much for
sure.
this.
Thank you.
And I know
Thank you, guys.
there's some questions. So
All right,
okay,
I'm not going
well,
anywhere.
but first let me I'm stepping ahead. First, I know everybody wants to clap for you. So first, Phil, thank you for being here and for everything you've taught us, and really appreciate it.
Thank you. It's a pleasure. It really is. I'm happy to do it.
And I'm sorry for jumping ahead because I know there are some questions and wanted to give everyone an opportunity to ask Phil some questions. And they can have to do with anything at all. They don't only have to be about Weather Channel or the work that he does.
So the question is really, do we have psychologists to study ad placement or what we call it UX, user experience? We have a few people in the office who are user experience experts. A lot of that stuff we subcontract out or hire a firm to do focus groups or studies. There's an awful lot of study in that field right now that's coming out of colleges and universities that we get a lot of input from there. So we get data on that from a lot of different places. We just actually set up our very first, and I'm very excited about this, Weather Channel user lab, which is basically we'll go and pick people off the street or we'll email people and say, would you please come in, give us an hour of your time, we'll give you $50, and we'll present you. Here's 2 different ways of doing things. Which is better, which is worse? What do you like about X? What do you like about Y? So there is some of that. We're getting more and we're getting better at that. Not psychologists per se. Those we find more in the colleges, but we have people who study what the psychologist would come up with. There's a lot of space there. I mean, if that's something you're interested in, that is a huge, big field with lots of interest and changes every day. And it's actually pretty exciting. One thing that we are working on right now, just even further, is on the website itself. We're trying to, a lot of sites do this. We have been a little behind technology-wise to do what they call A/B testing, which is some people who come to the site see one thing, other people who come to the site see something else. And we'll track performance and measure one versus the other. And it may be that we figure out we only want people in Atlanta to see this and people everywhere else to see something else, or it might be time of day or day of week. It could be any variable we can track. So that happens there too. So yes?
What college did you go to?
Undergrad, I went to the University of Georgia. I studied, it's called Management Sciences and Information Technologies. It's in the business school. So I was doing a lot of computer stuff and a lot of accounting and finance stuff at the same time. Little kind of back and forth. And then I went to grad school. I was working full-time and I went to grad school at Kennesaw State and have that degree is in, it's called Operations Management, which is kind of where I am now. I do a lot of the creative and try to figure out the new. Once you've got that figured out, the operationalization of that is like, how can I repeat this? The joke that we always use in the office is lather, rinse, repeat. Lather, rinse is like the first step, but repeat is how do I make it so I can do it again and again and again? Does the actual weather have a lot to do with the success of the Weather Channel? Absolutely. Yes. You can actually, every Tuesday, we hold a web team meeting. Everybody who works on our website gets together in one room, and one thing we look at are graphs and charts and numbers of what's going on the website. And I can tell you by looking at those charts when there's a weather event and where it is. When the hurricanes come through, whatever hurricane season is, I'm not even sure, March through September.
Right.
You can see there's a spike in traffic, how many people come to the site. As storms start coming closer, straight up. So absolutely. It's interesting because as we get into winter, we get this weather like we have today. You'll see the website dips down and a lot of people don't go to the website. I mean, look outside, it's beautiful. What do you, thank you.
Because it was raining this morning. I wanted
Sure.
to make sure it wasn't going to rain while I walked out the house.
Excellent, perfect.
I go
But
on
if
the
it-
site every day, at least
Thank you.
once a day.
But if it's like this for a few days in a row, that number dips down, and it's like this, you don't care. It's like I don't need to know anything. Once it starts getting cold in a couple weeks and it starts raining, we'll spike up again. Right around Christmas time, Thanksgiving, numbers will go crazy. We'll get a lot of traffic on the website. Absolutely. People want to know how to plan for that, and ice and snow and all that.
Phil, thank you
Oh,
so
thank
much.
you,
This
Liz.
is
This was
great.
great.
This is really great.
Oh, yeah, thank you guys. This was fun.
And
I really had a
thank
great
you,
time.
everyone.
Thank you guys. Thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it.